Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am Dr. Elizabeth Saxton, and I am the current president of the Pain Society of Alberta. And I want to say welcome to our Let's Talk About event. Let's talk about less understood chronic pain conditions. Today is going to be a jam-packed, exciting day talking about not only the conditions that people have so many questions about, but also hearing from the people who experience it. I think it says a lot in the title itself. These conditions that we're going to be talking about today are misunderstood. Not just less understood, they're often misunderstood. And there's tons of misinformation out there. There's tons of questions without answers. And I think one of the important pieces that we often forget about is it's not just the condition that's misunderstood, but also the people who live with it. From frustrations trying to be understood by their healthcare practitioners or family or friends, employers, there's just so much challenge in trying to find answers when you feel like there are none. And on top of that, feeling like somehow you're being misunderstood or misconstrued. I think there's a ton of information that needs to be shared. And I am so incredibly proud to be part of an organization that is willing to be a part of this. This is completely aligned to the goals of the Pain Society of Alberta. This is what we are meant to do. For those of you that may have looked around our website, our value proposition for our entire organization is excellence in pain education. And we want to live and breathe that. And we have a commitment to it through a number of events that we do throughout the year. And all of those events are going to be grounded in best practice and not only focusing on the science behind, but also the intervention and ultimately helping to instill hope. Hope for those who are living with chronic pain, hope for those who are supporting those living with chronic pain, and ultimately trying to change the context and the efficacy and the interventions that are happening right here in Alberta, but also translating that across Canada. When we talk about pain management guidelines, when you look at the Canadian guidelines for best practice in pain management, one of the key components that they mention is education. And it's interesting that with some of the less understood conditions, education seems to have gotten missed. It seems to have come down to, well, what can I quickly find? Or I heard about something. And we need to get back to that space where the education is grounded, it's informative, and you can feel really confident in the information you're getting. It's also about not forgetting the one individual who is experiencing all of this. So our organization has a commitment to inclusion. And when we talk about inclusion, it isn't just words, it is an identity. It's part of how we work. And part of our commitment to that is including people with lived experience in everything from potentially our planning committees to our board, as well as, of course, being invited to be part of the education that we offer. And to that end, I want to speak a little bit about how we got here today. So today is our fourth Let's Talk About event. Our original Let's Talk About event came out of the COVID pandemic. I'm sure we all remember that quite fondly, and we're going to be talking about some of the post-COVID issues that are still ongoing today. And we realized that as a group of committed professionals to supporting those who have chronic pain, COVID brought a real challenge. How do you support people when you can't see people, when you can't touch people, when you can't have that connection, when you can't leave your house? How do you do that? And back then, our board came up with this fantastic idea of let's have an event where we can offer those services virtually. And so we created our first Let's Talk About event, Let's Talk About Pain. And it was more broad. And it was such a huge success, and we got so much incredible feedback that we wanted to keep doing it. And then historically, we've done it on different topics. And this year, we're hoping to offer more than one Let's Talk About event. And that brings us to the one that we're having today, which came from, honestly, a lot of feedback from you, the people. We heard loud and clear this is something people wanted to talk about. So we had this incredible planning committee, though some of whom are on this call, this incredible planning committee who brought together the experts you're going to hear about today, the people with lived experience who are included today, and brought them all together to create this incredible event. So in addition to that, we want you to be part of this experience, not just by hearing the information, by actually interacting with us. So there are going to be questions you can ask. If you have questions for the different speakers, absolutely put it into an email. The email address is question, singular, question at painab.ca, question at painab.ca. If you send that email in, we have people who are going through the questions and pulling them together to provide during the Q&A sections of the presentation. And we also want this to be interactive. So we want you to be able to chat not only with us, but also with each other. So for sure, go into the chat. If you are on the live stream, there should be a chat bubble. You can click on that. And at the bottom, it will say guest. If you want to just be a guest and join really quickly, you just put in your name and boom, you're in the chat. I know a bunch of you were in already. If you want to, you can sign up as well. As always, we have an amazing website, painab.ca. We also have a YouTube channel that we would encourage you to subscribe to. And you can also find us on Instagram. All of those links will be put in the chat as we go through this. In the spirit of inclusion, we want to make sure that we recognize behavior in the chat. We want the behavior in the chat to be respectful and inclusive. Be kind to each other. That is all we ask. I also wanted to acknowledge today, I am seated in Treaty 7 land and territories, and want to acknowledge all of the Indigenous nations that contributed to the stewardship of the land that we are coming to you from.